Shalom from Jerusalem. This is Israel at War, an update on day 616 of the war, which started on October the 7th, 2023, with 53 hostages, at least 20 of them alive, still in Hamas captivity. But the war, which started with this horrific Hamas attack and massacre, soon escalated to the involvement of Hezbollah, the Houthis, Iran, and here we are with the latest escalation culminating in the Israeli attack overnight, Operation Nation like Lions. And here with us, but not really here, only here virtually, are Reserve General Gershon Cohen, formerly the commanding general of the Israeli Defense College, as well as an Army Corps commander. And General Cohen, obviously, you also led many war games, so you have the capacity to compare what the Israeli Defense Forces simulated and exercised to what has happened tonight and is still going on. And our own Jonathan Hassan, who is traveling, is also with us. Jonathan, you are somewhere in Europe. Gershon, you are in central Israel. And up to now, we are on the eve of the first day of this operation, which may be more than just an operation, maybe a war. And it seems that Israel has achieved a lot of its goals. What is your view? How do you sum up the operation up to now?
Actually, there are excellent achievements. The main goal is really simple: to prevent the capability of Iran to create a nuclear warfare and a nuclear weapon. And this outcome yet not sure that it was really achieved, but a lot of achievements are really much than what are really been under planning. But the main anxiety is not really whether at all the achievements are enough regarding to the goal, but the main anxiety is how this war could come to an end, or it will become an open-ended warfare. Because if we are comparing that war that was emerged that night to the last operations in Iraq in 1981 and in Syria 2007, those operations really have been very short operations with a beginning and a definite end. And in the definite goal of the operation in Syria, there was a definite awareness how we can bring that to an end by creating a potential of ignorance, that Assad will ignore that something happened. Here, no one can really begin to ignore, and the war really began. Nobody can really tell now how it could come to a good end for Israel.
Jonathan, the front is, of course, east of Israel. You are now in the west, and you have an occasion to find out the view from the west, from Europe, from the United States. How does it look from abroad?
Well, it's twofold. On the one hand, you do hear a very strong message of support for Israel's right to self-defense, particularly also from France, from Germany, and from the United Kingdom here in Europe, when the three foreign ministers communicate with their counterpart, Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Saar, and tell him openly that while they do hope for de-escalation, they fully support the Israeli effort to defend itself and highlight that they will not stand idly by while the Islamic Republic of Iran pursues nuclear weapon proliferation. On the other hand, you do have the United States, which, for all intents and purposes, we see the messaging by US President Donald Trump highlighting that he gave Iran a chance and that indeed he gave Israel a green light in order to eradicate the Iranian aspects of, or the installations of its nuclear program, and also highlighting all the while that Iran still has a chance to alter course. So unless it continues to pursue diplomatic means in order to reach a viable solution that ends enrichment, the United States is essentially granting Israel a green light to the end to deal with Iran to the fullest extent of the meaning.
Gershon, building on what Jonathan just said regarding President Trump, obviously his stated goal is to end wars rather than start them.
Yes.
And to some extent, this may contradict his support for the Israeli operation. However, if one looks at the nuance here, President Trump did not take part in the operation itself, in the offensive action. He is helping Israel to intercept the barrage of Iranian drones and perhaps missiles. And hopefully the negotiations will resume, unless, of course, the Iranian national honor prevents the Ayatollah Khamenei from coming back to the negotiating table under such inferior conditions. What's your view?
Here, President Trump really standing or facing a very essential tension, because even though he insisting to bring an end with negotiation and with an agreement, what happened in the last 20 hours really leading the whole roots of reality to a different situation, different circumstances. And the way in which the leader, Khamenei, promising to destroy Israel, to take the opportunity for revenge, nobody can really see how President Trump really could bring an end by negotiating and an agreement. But we will have to see. As long as United States will not find a definite cause to enter, to participate in the war, still they can invite all of the partners, Iran and Israel, to negotiation, but the good circumstances could lead to an agreement. But the probability for that right now is very low.
Jonathan, only a few months ago, the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, along with her colleagues from the CIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency, the FBI, and others, presented the National Intelligence Assessment regarding the Iranian nuclear project. And what the intelligence chiefs in Washington said, in essence, was that Khamenei did not reauthorize his subordinates to renew the quest for nuclear weapons, which he suspended back in 2003. But there are more and more and bolder voices within the Iranian system calling for a break towards nuclear weapons. Now, President Trump, a few hours ago, said that many of the hardliners have been killed in the operation. Presumably, this is going to soften the Iranian stand. But as we saw, at least in the assassinations of Hamas and Hezbollah leaders, it is not always so. Sometimes the new leaders or the new commanders feel a lot of pressure to continue the hard line. So, do you really see any change in the Iranian position because many of the Revolutionary Guard, the army, the scientific community were killed?
President Trump is basically highlighting the fact that the longer this war prolongs, the more devastating it's going to be for the Islamic Republic of Iran. It's quite evident that the Iranians did not calculate their cards correctly. They thought that both the United States and Israel were not coordinated. They bought too much into the chatter and the chaos that was quite evident within the public space. But nonetheless, when we're talking specifically about the two separate cases, on the one hand, we have the Islamist Hamas that continues to fight. The political echelons of this terrorist organization are very keen on seeing a negotiated solution with Israel as soon as possible. On the other hand, its military branch, the Izzeldin al-Qassam brigades, is quite adamant on prolonging the war, and therefore we don't see a reality right now of a negotiated solution. On the other hand, when we're talking specifically about the Iranian proxy Hezbollah, Hezbollah had a lot more to lose. And in this context, we saw Hezbollah incapacitated, with its leadership largely destroyed, eliminated, particularly also from Hassan Nasrallah to his supposed successor, also being killed in that same strike, bringing about Naim Qassem, who understood that it's a matter of survivability. And therefore, we saw Naim Qassem in the famous speech that he provided, sweating, understanding that he may be next in the equation. And therefore, on the 27th of November of last year, we saw this very powerful militia coming to terms with its defeat and saying, okay, we cannot continue this way, and we reach a cessation of hostilities. They understood that unless they do not succumb, they will be completely annihilated. And this is something that we can also expect from the Iranian regime, namely the Ayatollah regime, when we are hearing President Donald Trump saying again, as I mentioned earlier, unless you come to a diplomatic solution, you come to the table with a viable solution to your nuclear program, Israel will continue, and it's becoming worse and worse as time progresses. So they can expect Israel to go all out. If they act out, the United States may even join the fight, and therefore it's in their best interest to come to terms that they cannot have a winning hand.
General Cohen, there is another player or cluster of players from which we have not heard yet, and this is the Persian Gulf, or in this case, the Arabian Gulf, those countries of the Arabian Peninsula, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and others, who are threatened by Iran. They are, in a way, a sort of human shields, or were supposed to be. But up to now, the Iranians have not reacted against them as they threatened earlier. Do you think they will put pressure on the United States, to put pressure on Israel to cut short the war so that they will not be caught by the escalation?
Absolutely possible. And of course, we already heard that they all declared that they are not supporting Israel. Exactly the opposite. They blame Israel by opening that offensive. So maybe the United Nations will create a coalition to enforce Israel to bring an end, together maybe with United States. And then it will not promise Israel that the revenge from Iran will not happen. They could wait and come by surprise to do something. So the future for Israel is absolutely unknown at that moment. And we will have to see. Everything is really under, as I am always repeating myself, under radical uncertainty.
Jonathan, how do you assess the position of the International Atomic Energy Agency, whose Director General Rafael Mariano Grossi issued a statement not condemning Israel, regretting, as he should, by his position, any attack on nuclear facilities, expressing concern that there will be radiation that might hurt the population or the environment. He's also worried about his inspectors, as he said, in Iran as well as in Israel, and calling on all parties to solve the crisis diplomatically. How do you take apart this formula?
Well, the IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi is a very diligent man. He is a diplomat in essence, and he has showcased that he has long fortitude when it comes to the efforts to ensure safety and non-proliferation, as he put it. That is something that we do need to take into account, the fact that he is focused indeed on the aspect of ensuring that everything stays in a peaceful nature. Of course, the situation is very fluid. Israel is very determined to destroy much of Iran's nuclear program, if not all of it, and this progress is going to be vigorous. So he is going to do everything in his power to use all the tools at his disposal to reach a certain diplomatic solution. Of course, the situation is very fluid, as General Cohen also mentioned. Right now, it's too early to really see a negotiated solution come to fruition. I do suspect that in the near future, we are going to see additional blows in Iran, and we need to wait and see how the Iranians are going to respond. Right now, it seems that much of its leadership, let's not forget, the Chief of General Staff, Bagheri, and the commander of the IRGC, Salami, and many other of Iran's top commanders, including of its Air Force, including of its IRGC Aerospace Command, have all been eliminated. So alongside the scientists, alongside its command and control, it is still trying to get to gain or regain its bearings in order to react to something that it seemingly did not expect.
Gershon,
please,
yeah,
I
go
have
ahead.
to end. I can
Go
just
ahead.
say a word that still we are waiting to see what will happen. And that's all I can say at that moment. We will see tomorrow.
Okay, it sounds very mysterious. It sounds as if you know something that we don't. But
No. I'm
okay.
really in absolute ignorance because reality is still not really decided what will happen, and it is open question.
So if you don't want to predict the future, let me put forward an assumption about the past and ask your opinion about it. Prime Minister Netanyahu has refused up to now to end the war in Gaza, which is the main demand of Hamas. And one of the reasons, perhaps the major reason, has been the opposition of a certain part, a certain chunk of his government coalition. What is the assumption? He needed this government in order to put forward his proposal for this operation against Iran. Without the support of certain ministers, he wouldn't have had enough backing for the operation, which for him was paramount. Now that the operation is ongoing, now that the government has survived a de facto vote of no confidence in the Knesset, he doesn't care about what I said, what was of major concern to him until only a couple of days ago. Now he can end the war in Gaza.
I agree.
Which, of course,
there is
go
a
ahead.
potential that after he succeeded to cross the Rubicon, he can really enter to a new game. But really, I have to enter now to something. So please, really, we are facing a new potential, and we will see.
Okay, so thank you very much, General Cohen, and we will see you shortly, perhaps next week, on our daily
We will
updates.
see.
For the time being, Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you.
So,
Shalom.
Jonathan, here we are in an in-house TV7 conversation. This has only been the first day of what may be a much longer campaign than one knows. One cannot even plan ahead, even the finest strategic and operational planners. And obviously, the Israeli Air Force, the Directorate of Military Intelligence, Mossad, the Operations Division, and all the others, communications, special forces, they have been magnificent up to now on the operational side. But right now, it's open-ended. Right now, it's the ball is in the other half of the court. What do you expect will happen over the next couple of days?
Well, look, it's ultimately a question of escalation dominance. There is a certain ladder of escalation to which the Iranians are going to respond at some point in time. Every reaction by the Iranians is going to be met with a higher reaction and a more deliberate reaction. Going back once again to President Trump's remarks, there is still a window of opportunity for the Iranians to avoid such a reality. Nevertheless, I highly doubt that's going to happen, at least at this point in time. With that being said, there is concern within the international community and the intelligence communities, particularly when we're speaking about one possible scenario in which the Iranians will try to take at least a big chunk of their 60% enriched uranium of U-235 levels of enrichment, take that, and then in a relatively small-sized location or installation from a side of a basketball stadium, no more than that, it could start to proliferate into a certain nuclear device and go with what it has accumulated to date, which is a relatively vast amount, and to produce a first arsenal of nuclear weapons. And therefore, the intelligence communities, both of Israel, Mossad, and the United States and others, are going to operate with utmost vigilance to ensure that such a scenario does not materialize. All the while, we are also expected to see Israel once again continuing to ratchet up its forceful targets or its forceful operations against various targets of higher value as time progresses. And the United States is going to apply its own pressure, on the other hand, with diplomatic efforts to try and reach a certain accommodated solution. Don't forget, the Ayatollah regime is very afraid of its own survivability. Therefore, a scenario in which, similar to what happened with Hezbollah, could include also a scenario in which Iran, within the current circumstances of near annihilation for its regime, or at least the potential of getting toppled, would opt out at the last moment, as it has indeed also done during the Iraq-Iran war.
One of the considerations against an Iranian nuclear test would have been that this is a clear violation of the Non-Proliferation Treaty, under which every member state has both privileges and obligations, and therefore Iran would have to suffer grave consequences. But now that it has suffered those consequences anyway, what is there to deter Iran from doing it?
Well, it's a very good question. And again, I think it goes back to regime survivability. The United States has, or President Trump in particular, has used a very catchy Nike phrase: just do it. Just do it. Come to terms with a reality in which you can reach a viable solution where you could have a peaceful nuclear program. If you do not, it will become worse and worse for you. And noting that, again, there's this escalation dominance where the attacks against Iran's nuclear infrastructure is going to be more forceful as time progresses. Now, let's not forget also another very important fact is that Iran is naked. Iran is naked. It does not have its surface and air capabilities. The first waves of Israel's strike in the previous attack on the 26th of October of 24 has already stripped it from the more advanced S-300 systems that were provided to it by Russia. The various capabilities that it was left with were now destroyed in the first waves just last night. So we are in a scenario in which the Iranians really need to understand that unless they are willing to basically commit suicide, they better start recalculating their actions and becoming smarter about it. As we say very often, Mr. Owen, there is a certain Clausewitzian approach where the strong power is merely one tool of the political spectrum. So the Iranians can utilize alternative means to reach the goal of survivability. If they do not, it seems that there is going to be a more forceful reaction as time progresses.
So it is quite premature to sum it all up. We are only after less than a day into this campaign. Up to now, fortunately, not even one single Israeli casualty, not one plane shot down. And let's hope that this is the way it is still going to be. Jonathan, thank you very much. We will soon trade places with you here in the studio. For the time being,
Thank you, Amir.
Right. This has been Israel at War, an update on day 616th of the war. And we will be back with another update early next week. For the time being, shalom from Jerusalem.
Israel has launched operations
on Vladimir Putin.
helping Iran develop its. We have logic, we have rationale, we understand how the system operates. For more of TV7's productions and editorials, we invite you to visit our website at www.tv7israelnews.com.